Finance Minister Tunku Datuk Sri Zafrul Abdul Aziz unveiled today a tighter spending framework for the nation in a bid to ensure a balance between economic needs and fiscal consolidation ahead of a challenging 2023. Here are the economic highlights of Budget 2023 before we go into some of the key takeaways. Putrajaya is earmarking 372.3 billion for 2023 spending, down 3.4% from the revised allocation of 385.3 billion for 2022. 272.3 billion will be set aside for operating expenditure, while 95 billion will go towards development spending. Revenue is expected to come in at 272.6 billion, down by some 4.4% from 285.2 billion this year. Meanwhile, economic growth is expected to moderate between 4 and 5% next year, following an expansion of an estimated 6.5 to 7% this year. Domestic demand growth is expected to slow to 5.1% from an estimated 6.3% expansion in 2022. Inflation is seen hitting 2.8 to 3.3% next year from 3.3% this year, while the jobless rate is expected to improve to between 3.5% and 3.7% from between 3.8% and 4% this year. Fiscal deficit is projected to hit 5.5% of GDP, down from 5.8% of GDP this year. Among the notable highlights announced today, tax cuts for middle-income earners. Zafrul said almost 1 million resident taxpayers in the 50 to 100,000 annual income range will see a 2 percentage point drop in the tax rate. This means individuals in the 50 to 70,000 income range are taxable at a rate of 11%, while those in the 70 to 100,000 category are taxable at 19%. However, taxpayers earning between 250 and 400,000 per year will have to pay 0.5 percentage point more in the coming year. That bumps up their tax rate to 25%, on par with the 400 to 600,000 income group. As for property-related initiatives, the minister said the stamp duty exemption will be raised to 75%, up from 50% previously. This will apply to the transfer of homes priced between 500,000 to R1 million. Individuals who want to transfer their property to a family member will only have to pay a stamp duty fee of R10. Meanwhile, in a bid to encourage Malaysians to shore up their retirement savings, the government will up the EPF voluntary contribution limit to 100,000 per year, compared with 60,000 previously. It will also expand the tax relief for life insurance premiums or life takaful contributions to include EPF voluntary contributors by up to 3,000 ringgit. Also increased the ceiling for investment into Amanah Saham Bumiputra and ASB2 to 300,000 from 200,000 currently. There was a significant number of incentives for women covering career and well-being unveiled in Budget 2023. The first in an effort to encourage women to return to the workforce after taking a career break. They would be entitled to tax exemptions for 5 years, from 2023 to 2028. The government will also set aside 235 million to help women entrepreneurs to build, upgrade and market their businesses through Dana Pembiayaan Khas Wanita. The Finance Minister also announced that the Securities Commission would introduce a special training program for women to enhance their leadership skills and ensure that more of them are board ready. Zafrul says the government will also identify and subsequently increase the number of women qualified to be appointed as board of director members. Adding on to that, he announced the setting up of gender focal teams in all the ministries and government agencies to address gender gaps and involve more women in the planning and implementation of policies. The Finance Minister also said that an anti-sexual harassment tribunal will be established to help fight all forms of sexual harassment and to raise awareness. In terms of well-being, Budget 2023 also included a 11 million ringgit allocation for subsidies for those to undergo breast and cervical cancer screenings in the form of mammograms and pap smears. There will also be another 8 million allocated for social support centres to help victims of domestic violence and those experiencing mental health issues. Those same centres will also serve as early intervention centres, providing psychosocial counselling. Finally, in order to ease the burden of mothers under Bantuan Keluarga Malaysia, Budget 2023 also includes a one-off cash aid of 500 ringgit for mothers from those households who give birth in 2023. To assist the low-income segment, the government is allocating 7.85 billion ringgit in cash aid under Bantuan Keluarga Malaysia. Households earning 2,500 ringgit or below with 5 children and more will get one-off handouts of 2,500 ringgit, while those with 4 children will receive between 1,000 and 2,000 ringgit. As for families earning 2,500 to 5,000 ringgit, they can get between 500 and 1,250 depending on how many children they have. On top of that, single-parent households will also receive another 500 ringgit. Singles will continue to receive 350 and senior citizens without spouses 600 ringgit. The government has also set aside 2.5 billion ringgit in welfare aid and 1 billion for its poverty eradication strategy. Another form of assistance is the electricity bill subsidy of up to 40 ringgit. That's for households earning 1,169 and below. Also proposed 400 million under ePemula. Youths will get 200 in e-wallet credit, and Malaysians in the M40 category earning under 100,000 ringgit a year will receive 100 ringgit in e-wallet credit. The government will also bear the cost for B40 youths to get their taxi, bus and e-hailing licenses via the MyPSV program. Meanwhile, PT/PTN borrowers will be offered a discount of up to 20%. Those who graduate with first-class bachelor's degrees will be exempted from repayment. Civil servants and government pensioners aren't left out. They'll receive special financial aid amounting to a total of 1.3 billion ringgit. Included in Budget 2023 were a number of incentives to make it easier for organizations of all sizes to do business in Malaysia, as well as several measures designed to fortify and future-proof the economy. Firstly, the micro, small and medium enterprises or MSMEs. Budget 2023 is set to enhance Business Revitalisation Fund Semarak Niaga from the 40 billion announced in 2022 to 45 billion for the coming year. This value includes direct loans, alternative financing and financing guarantees. There will be a 1 billion grant for one-off 1,000 ringgit aid to all registered MSMEs and registered taxi drivers. It will benefit 1 million recipients. MSMEs will also get some tax relief in the form of income tax reduction to 15% from 17% for the first 100,000. There was also a notable focus on tech in Budget 2023. Khazanah Nasional has already committed to investing 1 billion under Dana Impact in 2023, and of that, 230 million is for investments in locally owned high-tech companies. The government will also extend the tax deduction of up to 1.5 million for listing expenses involving ACE and LEAP markets until assessment year 2025. Tax deductions for companies have also been expanded to include the listing costs of tech-based companies in Bursa Malaysia's main market. There are also plans to expand the scope of tax incentives for individual investors in startup companies via equity crowdfunding. As more businesses move online, stable connectivity is crucial. This is why Digital Nasional will expand the 5G network nationwide to cover 70% of highly populated areas with an infrastructure expenditure allocation worth 1.3 billion ringgit. There is also 700 million in allocation for Jendela to improve digital connectivity. And as security in this space becomes more of a concern, the government will spend 73 million to improve Malaysia's cybersecurity by strengthening monitoring, detection and reporting of threats, as well as building cyber forensic system capabilities. The government also included several measures to strengthen business infrastructure in line with the global focus on ESG. Last year, businesses lost billions as floods paralyzed the nation. In order to help the country deal with that, Budget 2023 has a 15 billion ringgit allocation for the flood mitigation plan until 2030, which is part of the government's long game to help the country adapt to climate change. The government also plans to introduce a carbon tax and will study the feasibility of a carbon pricing mechanism. To support the implementation of this mechanism, the government will provide 10 million as a matching grant to help SMEs prepare for carbon assessment.